Hello class, welcome to week 3 of public speaking. You'll have to excuse my surroundings here. I finally made it back home from New York, but about the only place I could find some peace and quiet was in my little 8x8 cube that I keep all my outdoorsy stuff. So anyways, on to the assignment for the week. We were to review and critique two peers plus ourselves. So the two other classmates I reviewed were Mr. Tim Outland and Brian McNeil. I'll start with Tim Outland. His memorable speech was of a sea story. When he said sea story, I got kind of excited. Spent 13 months at sea. I've seen a lot of good stuff, a lot of good sea stories. His was a little more PG rated than I expected, but then again, it is a public video he's posting, so completely understand that. He was very enthusiastic about the material. The Hey Fat Man was definitely great. Kept saying that over and over. It'll probably stick with me for a while, and I feel sorry for the next guy with a fancy hat I see. Although I think Tim did an outstanding job presenting it. I don't have a whole lot more to say. I know he moved around a lot, spoke with his, talked with his hands. I don't see a problem with that. I think it's an extra thing for the audience to focus on, even if they're not completely listening to what they're saying. It keeps people from looking down at their phones or just being rude. It gives them something else to look at. Sometimes somebody just standing there being stiff and talking doesn't work so well, in my opinion. So I think Tim's extra animations, did a good job. Now, on to Brian McNeil and the Brian McNeil Chronicles, as he calls it. I think that's outstanding. He calls them the Chronicles. His story was, or memorable speech was obviously about some training prior to a deployment, which, having military background, I understand exactly where he's coming from. He, during his story, he used a lot of terms that are, excuse me. During his story, he used a lot of terms that military personnel would understand. Possibly somebody that's never been around the military might be like, "Hey, what's an M249?" I think Brian did an outstanding job at giving very brief descriptions, just enough to keep the listener from being confused, where they had some idea of exactly what he was talking about. And his overall presentation of the speech was it really got you in the moment, and kind of like watching a movie where you could just kind of picture it. He explained it in great detail without getting boring, and I'll give him 2 thumbs up for that. Now on to myself. I'm a rambler. I've probably been rambling during this speech. Now I lose focus quite often. I'm a horrible public speaker, come to think of it. But for last week's memorable speech, I did ramble quite a bit on my company's decoder ring, as it was described in another critique of acronyms. Now, well, I can't do much to change the past, but as you can see, I'm continuing to ramble here. Anyways, I think to improve that, I would have to look at, I tried to go into too much detail and explain those things. That's where some of my peers, like Brian, did an excellent job explaining things where I rambled on mine. That was the first time I told that speech to someone outside of my company. So I was worried that they wouldn't quite understand what I was trying to get across, and I focused too much on the descriptions and not on the material itself. But that's my critique for myself and for the other two, and I look forward to the next 5 weeks class. Thank you very much.